We're back. This is it. No mistakes. Back to normal.
No
Kinda,
mistakes.
Ish.
Mistakes is normal.
All right.
All right. So the intro music's playing. There's a little bit of a weird light, and life is good.
Yeah. We got the regular microphones back.
Yeah, the new regular mics are
It
back.
took less than an hour and a half to get set up this morning.
Technical troubleshooting is episode 42. If we make it to episode 42, we'll talk about how we troubleshoot.
You know, I blame it on you, youngster. You should know how to use these technologies. I'm old, so that's my excuse.
True. I think it could be intuitive. It's just there are a lot of wires.
There's nothing intuitive
There's
about
a lot of wires, a lot of
sound
software.
recording, and you add video to it.
Yeah.
As someone who has done sound and audio work for a number of years.
And so who are you, Myles? I think we stopped doing introductions because we're just talking to ourselves.
Hey guys, my name's Myles. I'm a father of three, middle-aged architect. You know, what is it? Sitcom. Or instead of a dink, is it sitcom? A single income, 3 kids, oppressive mortgage.
I don't know. Is that an acronym?
I came up with it one day. Yeah, we were talking about dinks and sinks, and then
dual income. Got it. Dink is a dual income.
No kids.
No kids.
Yeah, you've never heard of a dink?
I have.
Okay,
single
income, no kids. Mine's a sitcom.
Sitcom.
Single income, 3 kids, oppressive mortgage.
Fair. I am newly married, I think still a year and a half or so in.
I'm coming up on 20 this year. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, we're opposite end of the spectrum there.
Wow. And we're under contract on a home that is not made by an architect. And life is good. And so
welcome to adulthood, Tony.
I feel like the amount of adult things that have happened since moving to Asheville have been exponentially higher than anything.
Was that part of your plan? Was that a goal?
A little bit of grown up. And I think you did what I was hoping to do. I was going to say.
I beat you to it. We didn't even talk about it. I knew what was coming.
No, I was going to say, you know what? Maybe we should set a goal of getting better at the setup and the technical.
We could set a goal just being better at this in general. That would be a pretty low bar for us to hit.
And so with that intro and very smooth transition and segue, I would love to talk about goals and goal setting today.
It's a tough one for me. I don't set goals.
So this is so interesting. So I told Sarah that I wanted to have this episode be about goals and goal setting. And I was like, honestly, I don't know. Myles seems like he would be a person who has had, a strong relationship to goals because it seems like he's achieved a lot. I from outside perspective, from friendship perspective, I'm like, my man's operating at a very high level. Are goals a part of it, or is this just like Myles rolls the ball out? You're talking about practice, man. I don't practice. It's a game.
We talking about practice?
Yeah.
No, I'm very much more practice than game. I am process driven. I wouldn't say like I sat down and at the age of 25 wrote a master plan for my life. I certainly have things in my life that I would like to accomplish. Got it. Yeah. See, the goal of getting better at this podcast. I mean, there are things in my life that I want to accomplish. And then I have those at like a micro level. Sure, there are things I wanted to own a home, wanted to have kids, wanted to start a business. And then there are things that, like in my watch collection, I have like I call them lifetime watches, like watches I would love to acquire and own and shepherd through sometime in my life. Like I don't want to do it before the age of 50 or just at some point in my life, I would love to own, a Speedmaster.
Huh.
A moon watch.
But you don't want to have it before 50?
No. I don't have a plan to get it. And so and it's the same thing for just to extrapolate that to really where I think we can connect sometimes is at the gym. And like I have a goal of hitting I would like to hit a certain number, but I care more about the process of putting in the work to get there. Like I hate max out day. I hate the day where you have to show up and attempt to achieve this goal.
Yeah.
Because that feels like a lot of pressure. Versus I can chip away a little bit every day. And that little bit every day gives me room to fail small, but over the trajectory increase.
Ha. Ha ha ha.
And one of my greatest fears in life is being seen as a failure. One day I still fear I'm just going to show up one day and the architecture police are at my office and they're like, Myles, and I think I've talked about this. It's like, we know
that you didn't know what you were doing this whole time.
No. What do you mean? And they're like, Myles, you can stop. You can stop pretending. We know you have no idea what you're doing, and that's it. Yeah. Then I get taken off to architecture jail. So.
Wow, like Azkaban or whatever. So that's interesting.
What's your when you think about a goal? So when I think about a goal, it's really something I would like to do. I care more about the process of getting there. And so when you think about a goal, what's your?
So I I go into like self-help guru mode.
Okay.
And I'm like
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I'm trying to what is a good goal? You know, is the goal to do X weight, or is the goal to be dedicated and process oriented, right? And let what happens happen, right? There were times where it's like my goal was to have a 6-pack, and then what I realized was there are certain outcomes that are outside of your control. And if the goal is a 6-pack, it's either some people are just genetically have a harder time getting there than others, but you can get crazy fit. You can be someone who prioritizes wellness above anything else if you wanted to, and whatever is the outcome of living that way, I imagine you would welcome, right? And to set some sort of I'll call it arbitrary 6-pack goal or body fat percentage goal it's been something that I've struggled with.
Or monetary goal.
Goal, exactly, because
I was going to be a millionaire before 35.
I was going to hire my mom at 30.
Oh,
that was one of my goals in my 20s.
Really?
Yeah, retire my mother from traditional work at 30.
My mom's on her own. Liz, I'm sorry. You got to get yours, girl. I can't help you.
But there are. I think that when I think about goal setting, what I find myself thinking about more often than the goal itself is how am I structuring the target, so that any miss is a hit. And I think that's what you're kind of talking about as well.
Yeah, that's my thing. Yes, and I wonder if it relates to personality types.
I think it's part of it.
People who are on the more creative side, who enjoy maybe having that freedom of, you can fail small and gain small, but the idea is you gain more than you lose throughout the trajectory of it, versus someone who's more type A kind of regimented. I'll use my wife for an example. She's got a plan, and that plan is written out, and you execute that plan every day. And you have to hit these numbers, you have to do this when it comes to running or anything like that.
Sure.
So
I have
to have freedom within. I think okay. So
I'm a 7, right?
I think that's where it's at. Yeah.
And I have to know that if I don't. So we're talking in very abstracts. And so one of the goals.
Let's just say any goal, like weight loss goal, strength goal, financial goal, whatever. It stresses me out to have to track something every day that reminds me that I'm a success or reminds me I'm a failure.
So then how do you keep it, or do you keep it top of mind? So that's one of the things is I don't like the process of high tracking, or the process of, journaling the exact same way every day, or even crossing X in the calendar, right? Is sometimes has been too much for me to commit to.
It's something you feel like you got to do every day.
Every day. And so that doesn't seem fun, and I'm a 7 Enneagram, so that tells me that I need things to be fun. And so if you're not doing things like that, how do you make an effort to keep your goals top of mind?
I have found if I'm thinking about a goal, the things that keep me moving toward that goal without thinking about that goal every day, changes in lifestyle, like making concerted efforts to block out time to go to the gym, to eat healthier. I basically ran the numbers, and now I use a meal service for lunch, which is much higher quality and better for me food than I was eating out, because I won't make my own. I can't meal prep. I cannot eat the same thing every day. I will literally die.
A lot of breakfast podcast for Bojangles.
Oh man, listen, I'm gonna go on the record. Okay, a calorie is a calorie. My body doesn't recognize Bojangles biscuits any different than it recognizes yogurt.
Heard.
That's what I choose to believe. That's my reality.
Yeah, I think that is as good of a thought.
But yeah, get yourself some beurre anglaise. Get that Cajun filet, egg and cheese on that fresh biscuit. It's good. It's good.
Never had it. I don't think I've ever been in Bojangles.
You can get pimento cheese on them now. I don't recommend it. It's not that great, but it's all right. I'll take you. We'll get you the beurre anglaise
one day. So okay, so you're.
I think that for me is how, like, if I'm trying to achieve a financial goal, I try to establish a life pattern or some type of system. Mm-hmm. Like I need a hard change that forces me or requires me to do it.
And would you say then that you front load a lot of the work to like several hours one day to build a system, to sign up for a thing, to do the research, and then try and have it just be?
That's one of the things. I find that if I'm interested in a topic or interested, that I am a researcher and that I'll dig into it, and that I need to just allocate time to get my feet underneath me, make a decision, find out how to implement it, and then be done with it, and then live with it every day.
Sure. Interesting. One of the things I think that we're probably wired more alike in that way than not. Like I'll do, once a quarter or so, I'll spend like a full day in spreadsheets looking at our finances. Oof. And then like make a tweak and like a change, and then ideally not be as obsessive as I was that one day for at least the next quarter or half a year. But that's sort of how I like to set things up, or how my mind works, is like I can then let it go because I know that day I was 100%.
Is that day reactive to something or proactive?
Sometimes both.
Okay.
Recently, so one of the ways I describe it is like I used to believe there were monsters under the bed or monsters in the closet, and my 7 need to have fun meant that I would just not look under the bed or in the closet.
Same.
I'm now in a place where perhaps I peer pressure myself because I tell myself that I have a wife and like I'm doing these adult things.
You got to
be
accountable.
There's more at stake than just me. So like look under the bed, check in the closet. And what that looks like is more proactive assessments and saying, hey, it's December 28th. Let's do a year review, and then let's finalize it 3 days from now when it's actually the end of the year and I have the final bank statements. Where 6 years ago, I might have done something if I saw all of a sudden Credit Karma was like, you missed a payment.
What the hell?
How did that happen?
No, I would say the times that I feel the most settled in my life are times when I am more proactive about doing things that achieve a goal I want. The times where I feel the most stressed, I'm highly reactive. But the problem is I would say I'm a pressure motivated person when it comes like I can't design. If you say, give me 3 weeks, you got 3 weeks to design my house.
You're going to do it in the last 3 days.
Yeah, I'm going to do it in the last 3 days because I need that pressure it just kicks me into a different gear. It's really strange. Unless I hit I'm in the shower one time, and I'm like, oh yeah, that would be cool. And then we start from there.
So that's so interesting. And I'm wondering, it's above my pay grade, but I'm wondering if it has something to do with like how we were as kids or as students or whatever, where it's a learned trait. Because I have to believe that if we can turn it on right there before, at the fourth quarter, we could probably create that.
I don't know. Some teams are just second half teams, Tony.
True. Here's a concept that I've lived into better than ever in the last several years. Whereas when I think I have a goal, whether it's and there's a couple types of goals. Some are, I'll call them habit-based goals. Other are like achievement or like do this thing based goals. And one of the things that has come up for me is, if there's a way, what is the smallest and easiest way to do that thing, to live that thing right now?
Okay.
So, oh man. So an example was, Sarah and I, while living in Brooklyn, had like a meaningful conversation, and the outcome of that conversation was like, oh shit, well, neither of our goals is to live in Brooklyn, have a brownstone in the West Village, or on, Park Slope in Brooklyn, or wherever the beautiful place is that you think that would be aspirational. So where is the next place? And we didn't say, let's move there. We said, let's next month take a trip to wherever we think might be a better fit. And what that does is, like, it gets me out of contemplation mode and into action, and into being. And so it's like, there are a number of other versions of things like that, where it goes from theoretical, I think that I want to go camping, to what's the next, when is the next time I can book?
Absolutely, yeah, because you can get, like you said, analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Like, it's more important just to go do the thing.
And let doing the thing inform if that actually should be a goal.
Yeah, it's true. Yes, I completely agree with that, because there are lots of times in life I feel like that fear kills a goal. Just like, oh, I would love to do that, but it seems too big, it seems too scary, whatever that goal is. Yeah. But if it's something you really want to do, you just got to get out of your own way sometimes.
Yeah, and I would say, like, if the goal is what is the Dakar rally? If the goal is the Dakar rally, like, maybe do something in the U.S. that's like 200 miles first. You know what I mean? Like,
maybe you don't need to hike to the top of Everest as your first mountaineering experience.
Like, if you think Everest is the goal that you think that you want to get to, climb the nearest hill. Yeah. Like, just start there.
It's kind of funny. We talked about something similar when it came to one of the first podcasts about motorcycles. When, if your idea of owning a motorcycle is a 1200cc sport bike, you don't need to go there. Like, that's not the appropriate first step. Like, pick something that's manageable. Get your feet underneath you. Hopefully you keep them underneath you and the bike underneath you. And then you decide, oh yeah, this is something I like. Or, this isn't really, it brings me more stress than not. But I think that's an important attitude when it comes, if you have a lofty goal that seems crazy, I think that, unless you're that type of just crazy, wild personality, breaking it down into something that is more manageable, I think it will be better served to determining if that's a real goal for you.
Absolutely. And I think even if you think that you have that crazy, wild personality, you would need, depending on the goal, you would need, like, adjacent expertise or skill set to transition into a crazy goal. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up to lose. And you communicated that you don't want to be known as a failure. You got, like, some Trump. You got some Trump in you, right? Like, you don't want to be. You don't want to be known as, like, someone missing the mark.
I don't want to be a failure. I don't want to be a disappointment. I don't want to be,
So what's a good way to not fail or disappoint? And this is a little bit of a quote from Dodgeball. The true underdog story is like, that's why I don't have goals, right? Because if you don't have them, you can't miss them. But like, if you set a small enough goal, you can't fail at the goal. If the goal is, and my goal has been, get into the gym, be inside of the gym.
Yeah.
Like, my goal has nothing to do with weights right now. My goal has nothing to do with effort, with RPE, which is a fitness term for, like, how hard did you try this time?
Rate of perceived exertion.
Yeah, right. And so my goals currently in wellness and health fitness have zero to do with numbers, reps, sets. Yeah. The only number that counts is, like, did I get inside of a gym?
Yes. And I think that's great, because I had to make a conscious decision when I was kind of first starting out. I had to be like, all right, what I'm doing is unsustainable in my life. Like, running the business, how I was running it, how I was feeling. Like, my goal was to be happier. And I thought the gym was a path to do that. And then when I got in, so the goal was just get into the gym. Like you said, be regular at the gym. Doesn't matter what you do, just go do something. And and then that goal got achieved, and then the goal shifted from, okay, can just getting to the gym. All right, can I do this lift, or can I push to this number? And I think, it's that is kind of how you can have a goal that then leads to another goal that leads to another goal that might lead you to a completely different path. Like I started out doing, again, just using the gym metaphor, I started out doing just moving, getting into the gym, doing spin classes and these calisthenic classes, athletic conditioning. And then that kind of took me down the CrossFit path. And then that took me into the Olympic lifting and strength and conditioning path. And so those have all been good. But the goal that got me there was, I just need to feel better, and I need to make time for me. And here
so here you are. And so if I'm not mistaken, and sometimes I don't know like what I hear when I hear in the gym, are you like truly at this point a national level weightlifter, or is that Zach being
No. I am very strong for an old person, but that's not saying much. There are 14-year-old Korean, Chinese Olympic team members 14-year-old females who outlift me.
Okay.
But for a 41-year-old male
in the United States of America,
yes,
that chooses to participate in this specific sport,
still chooses to participate in Olympic weightlifting. I'm pretty,
Okay, so
I'm up there
at this point, right? So the goals have changed from, I'm going to go spin 3 times a week.
But that was never the goal. The goal wasn't. It was just a byproduct of putting in the training.
Understood. And so what do goals look like for you today? Like when you think about fitness, is it number based? Is it the amount of days that you're in the gym? Is it days that you can walk out of the gym with your head high? Like what are you thinking about?
Well, I think so. Last Saturday was a good example. Last Saturday was what is referred to as a total in the Olympic lifting community. That means you do the snatch and you clean and jerk, which are two
parts
lifts
of one movement.
Two parts of one movement. But those are the 2 scored lifts in an Olympic weightlifting meet. And my goal is just to, so I went into Saturday not with this, like obviously I have a number I would love to hit, but like I missed my snatch, but it was technically great. It was a technically great lift that I missed. I care about more how I care more about how I look when I missed than the number I actually lifted.
Heard.
So because I'm chasing the process, like I'm chasing the nuance and the perfection of the lift, not the actual number. The number just changes based upon my training. So I think that is how, when I approach some of those things, I don't, like, again, I failed, and we talk about how I hate to fail, but I care. This is gonna sound awful. I care more about how I look when I fail than when I make it. Like,
sure.
If someone looked at me and said, "Man, that was a great snatch," he almost had it. That's a completely different than, "Damn, he made that lift. I hope his back's okay."
A doctor, medic.
Like some are like looking around like. So there's some people who lift like when they get ready to do it, like nobody watches because it's such a. It's just not fun to watch. Yeah. But again, and I think extrapolate that out to my feelings in life is, yes, I care more about how I am perceived when I fail. Like failing with grace, or failing doing the right thing, or failing making a wise decision, or failing, doing the best versus making it on a really kind of questionable way, if that makes sense. Like under questionable circumstances.
Sure, I think it does make sense. And one of the things that is coming up for me is the concept of threshold training.
Okay.
Right, where the best example of it is with marksmanship for me, right? Okay. With like pistol shooting, but it's everything. And the idea is,
I relate threshold training real quickly mostly to emotional growth.
How interesting.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I would. Okay, but the idea that if given 5 seconds to fire 5 rounds on target, if all 5 rounds hit dead center bullseye, like make a single entry, you're not shooting fast enough.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they also talk about it with NASCAR and racing. And the idea is that if you are doing it right, you should be approaching the threshold of your capacity often, not every time.
Yeah.
Right. To get better at driving a race car, you need to touch the walls sometimes. You need to skid. You need to burn out. You'll probably wreck at some point.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're not actually putting yourself at the level of your capacity, and therefore you're not forcing growth in the way that you would want to if your goal was growth.
Yes. You got to find the line of whatever it is, whatever goal that you're trying to. You have to, whatever your goal is, you have to find where your current line is in reference to that goal. Because if you've got to move your line closer to what you want, you've got to push that line.
Yeah, and with the same 5 seconds, 5 shots, if this is your first time holding a pistol and you fire and it startles you and you get no other shots off and that one shot missed,
you found your threshold.
Yeah, you are going too fast.
Yeah,
we got to slow it down. Yeah. Right? The objective is no longer to get 5 rounds off in 5 seconds. Yeah. So everyone is different, and what I'm hearing you say is that if the skill and the effort looks the way that you want it to, you're okay with bumping up against the wall. You're okay with missing the target 1 out of 5 times because you know that you're right up on your threshold.
Yeah, and I think
interesting.
And but you have to understand where you have to have done enough work to understand where the threshold is.
True.
Because it's you go out there and flail around, like maybe you get it right once out of 20 times, but
and what I'm trying to not do is at this level of my motorcycle journey is actually find my threshold too often. Or when I do, I want that the environment is as much under my control as possible.
Yeah.
So I've now tested my threshold a couple different times and hit said threshold, and that is it's to be expected, right? So I'm not startled by it. I know that I'm going to fall off the horse. I know that my intention is to get right back on it. Yeah. But when I can, I would love to, own the parameters. I don't want to make a mistake on a highway.
Yeah.
I'll make a mistake in a parking lot.
Yeah. And that, I think, when you look at people who
empty parking lot.
Yeah.
To be clear, empty parking lot.
Late at night, no one around.
Exactly. Yeah.
But just a bunch of old ladies just standing around in crosswalks. I'm just no. It's when I look at people who have achieved the goal. Mm-hmm. One of the things, when in my youth, when I was racing motorcycles. There are different levels of speed. There are the people who are fast to you. There are people who are fast to a region. There are people who are fast to a nation, and then there are people who are fast to the world. And there used to be a guy who lived in Black Mountain, North Carolina, the Raging Cajun. He was from Louisiana, obviously. I'm going blank on his name, but he raced motorcycles. Jamie James, maybe.
Great name.
And he's known to be world fast. He was a fast guy. And I had only been regional, and then he had achieved all the goals. And what amazed me is he knew where his capacity was, and he could run up to it and stay away from it anytime he wanted.
Yeah, he
had that level of control.
Yeah.
And when we're going through a corner, and I've told you the story, he I'm cooking, I'm smoking, and I'm like, man, we are hauling the mail. We're coming through this corner, and he's in front of me showing the line. In the middle of the turn, he turns around. He does like this. Well, I'll point to the camera. He turns around and he just goes like this with his hand, just motions me over a foot.
Yeah.
We weren't even at play speed for him yet.
Yeah.
And so to see someone with that level of
control
but it's experience, and and so when I think about if I'm weaving this path towards something, whatever that goal is, is this a skill issue? Is this a mental issue? Is this an emotional issue? And what are the tools I have? And again, where's my line? Does my line need to increase, or do I just need more information? And so I think you kind of have to evaluate. And maybe that's why I'm not like the goal type. I'm the process type because I like to do that evaluation.
I think it's a great point. The one thing that I'm gonna flag with the last moment of that last statement is how often have you felt that the thing you needed was more information?
We got the internet, son.
That's what I'm saying. Google. Like, so there's a distinction. We keep bringing up these distinctions, but they have been impactful to me, and so these are language I use. The difference between want to and how to.
Yeah.
And we live in a time where the how to is the marginal cost of how to is zero.
Yeah.
So you could figure out how to do just about anything. You probably watch someone else do the exact thing on YouTube for free for the cost of advertisement in front of you, 15 seconds or 4 seconds, and then skip.
Yeah.
The how to is free. And so it's like the question really is almost always, do you actually want to?
Yep.
And the next thing is it's a choice or is it a decision? And I think that oftentimes it's just a choice. It's like do the next smallest thing or don't, but don't stay up all night and thinking about it, which is what I did 2 weekends ago after committing to buy a home. I was like, did I do the right thing? Do I know enough? What do I need to research? Oh no, like how
you're already, I was saying, a decade into home ownership.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, we're not going to be able to sell it for nearly as much. Whatever. It was silly, but I asked that almost in jest because I'm of the mind that rarely
are you
is
committed to your goal. I think that's what I am gleaning from that is like, is this something that you are genuinely wanting to do and willing to put the work in to do it? Because if your goal is blank, you're going to have to work to get there, because if you didn't have to work to get there, you'd very likely already be there if that's where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
So, no, that's true, because I tried to be a cyclist and a runner. Couldn't make it happen.
You got a body for both of those. I think.
My heart wasn't in it. I don't think my ass was either. But, it's. I think, if important to the goal is understanding why you are making the goal. And I think when you look at if you're making dietary changes, financial changes, schedule changes, I think it's important to ask yourself, why are you setting this goal? Not just what the goal is, but why. And so to get back to you, and you're just to get into the gym, just to feel better, to be happier because that's what you want to do. And so if that's what you want to do, then you'll make those little micro changes needed to get there. If your goal was to back squat 500 pounds, you'll get in there and you'll just kill yourself trying to hit that goal, and you'll never get there. You'll get burned out and you'll go on to something else.
There's this reminds me of episode 3 of the Making It a Natural podcast, or 2. It's a very early one.
Wow.
2,
okay.
Maybe. A concept that has been important to me also, now us, Sarah and I, is the prioritization of be, do, have.
Ooh,
have you heard of those
Speak
3?
On that.
So it is common for people to prioritize have, do, be.
Okay.
If I have the right running shoes, I can go for runs. Ooh. Then I can be a runner.
Okay. Yeah.
Not uncommon, right? That's what people think. I need the weightlifting belt to do heavy back squats, and then I can be a power lifter.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
And where our efforts are to always keep top of mind is that it should be the opposite way. Be, right? So like in body, think like, act like, even if it's a persona that you a skin that you put on once in a while, if you can access, what does it look like to, I would, this is the language I would use if I was coaching, high school lacrosse or soccer. It's like, what does it look like to be a state champion, to be a national champion, to be a professional at this? What does it look like to be a CEO of a major company that cares about people? How does that person move, act, interact? Think on it. and then do those things. Like embody that, do those things. And then over time, when you be a certain way and do those certain things, you get to have...
Oh, sounds like fake it till you make it.
You get to have some outcomes.
Yeah, for sure.
And things that are of the, of the order of the work and personality that you showed up with. And it's, in some ways it's fake it till you make it. In other ways it's like, no, I was actually that. I already like, you can see it sometimes in like musicians or in certain type of special athletes where it's like, no, LeBron was already a 5-time world champion at 20. It hadn't happened yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah.
And if it doesn't happen at that point, like if you don't get the ring, you're not a champion. You're not a world class.
I will say the only criticism, it sounds very Kanye West, what you're talking about.
Does Kanye talk like this?
Oh man. So I think, I think Kanye knew this. Like Kanye's first couple of albums were truly amazing.
Yeah.
The problem is I think Kanye knew that. And I think he was already at Yeezy status before he made college or high school graduation or which one? College
late registration.
Yeah, late registration. I can't remember which one, the order of them, but so yeah, like I do think there is value in that, because if like you said, if the original order of that is, it seems that you want to be something, acquire stuff that will help you be that person or be that thing. And I think it is, like you said, it's more important if you are that thing, it shows ownership of it and it shows control of it and it shows some type of understanding that then, like you said, gets manifested in different ways. Like I know about diesel engines. I know about car engines. I know about specific Mercedes things that then led me down the road to a purchase of something, to get something. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I wanted a SL550 AMG. Let me go get all the information and figure out. Like, it's just it was something that just kind of passively happened because of all the I guess the way I positioned myself.
Yeah, and I struggle with it a lot because I love gear.
Oh,
and so like the have is third. And so I'm like, well, what? And the way that I've done it, I've like really, we talked about it in a camping episode. I'm really only camped in terrible climate, terrible scenarios, and each time it was more or less to justify wanting to have things. Yeah, and I'm like, if I'm not willing to do it, like if I won't do it now, then
I think exactly along those same lines. I think in any high skill, high knowledge pursuit, there's typically gear associated with it, and with for me and maybe you, buying that gear makes us feel like we're part of it.
And like progress has happened,
and there hasn't been. Like you can buy all the gear and have never gone on a camping trip.
Sure.
You can buy all the camera equipment and never have taken a single photograph,
or published a photo, or like posted a photo, right? Because you could take them, and that's another thing. It's like, who are you doing it for? What's the outcome that you're actually looking for? Yeah. But like I think about our boy, the Raging Cajun, who I didn't know about, but like if
he used to own a restaurant in Black Mountain too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. But if he hopped on my little rinky dinky 650, I bet you he would run circle
people on that thing.
Like smoke.
Yeah.
And so it's not. To me, right, it's not the have. Yeah. It can't be.
And in your mind, who's cooler? The old dude that hops on the $2,000 motorcycle and just smokes everybody, or the old dude that has the crusty $50 camera
and takes great photos
and takes amazing photographs because he's the master of what he wants to do.
And that's where I think when I think about finance or these things that are less, I'll call it measurable in a sense that like I got in the gym today, I lifted this much weight. Finance for me, it's like if I were looking to a role model who knows what the right things are.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna day trade anyone. I'm not gonna. So what are the things that I can participate in today? And is it as simple as knowing what our air quotes balance sheet, personal balance sheet will look like? Is it just having a sense of that? Like, let me put an hour in and let me figure out what all the debts look like and let me figure out what all the accounts look like. That's, to me, that's like, the question is, if I'm, when I was 30, I would say, well, what is 50-year-old me who somehow has like seen the light and gets it and is no longer afraid? What does that person do?
Yeah.
How do they think about?
How do I act like that now?
Yeah. How do they act? How do they interact? And then what of that can I take today? Because clearly I won't have all of the systems that they have in place. I won't have the financial advisor that I have in my 50s, but like maybe I could start talking to financial advisors.
Yeah.
Maybe I do the work that would make having a conversation with a financial advisor worthwhile. So it's McConaughey was credited with saying his goal or his hero was him like 5 years in the future, or his hero was him 10 years in the future. And whether, I do think, it was him that I heard the voice, and it was him, whether that's from a movie or from an actual
whether it was
award ceremony. The concept, I think, is meaningful, and it's something that I often think about. I'm like, if I'm not afraid, and if I'm, if there's a version of me that I've been, like, even this was me, and I feel myself walking around in circles, but this was me in New York, where, I knew the way I was showing up wasn't how I always intended to. And at some point I needed to make a choice that just said, well, what if I changed now and just started acting like the man I think I could be? What do I need to do right now? Who do I need to be this moment?
What got you to that point?
In that particular instance, hurting friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that feels very much like "you make me want to be a better man" quote from Jack Nicklaus, I think, in some movie.
I know the one.
It's where I can't. Anyway.
Yeah. But it's that type of a thing.
But what got you to that point?
What?
Because I think some of the goals that I have set in my life are because I have been backed into a corner and I need to make a serious change.
And I think that's fair. And it wasn't that what I was doing. So there's another thing, like integrity versus morality. Integrity to me is, if it's honor amongst thieves.
Yeah.
If I say I'm going to be a certain way, I do those things.
You can be a thief with integrity.
Yeah, I do. I'm not lying to you. You know where I stand. You know how I act. It's when you start to act outside of integrity, meaning wholeness with word and action, is when things start going sideways. Nothing that I was doing was like so crazily morally wrong. It was just, I had set expectations for friends. I didn't live into them. Agreements were being broken. And where I got to was, I think about me with a six-pack, and I wasn't doing anything that was healthy.
Eating McDonald's
and so at a certain point I need to either say six-pack Tony is a lie that you're telling yourself.
Yep.
Remove it because you're not that, or start living into the person who would actually potentially have six-pack. And in this instance, it was be honest, truthful, committed, monogamous, direct, straightforward with everyone.
That's very self-help, Tony, right there.
It's like,
but that's great. To have that level of self-awareness and the ability to recognize what you are doing to other people is probably one of the hardest human skills, because you got to step out of yourself. you have to be able to say, was I wrong? Am I wrong? You have to start at, what am I doing wrong and how do I make it better? And that's hard.
It can be, and then sometimes it's just a choice, right?
I guess you have to choose.
It's how present tense can you be?
Yeah.
It's like a weird thing, and I don't discredit anyone who holds on to like stories of their past, and lets those stories, and I'm saying which could be offensive, but lets those stories dictate the future. I fundamentally understand that.
There are traumatic events in life that change who you are.
Sure.
And your perspective on the world.
I call them fishbowl shattering moments where everything fundamentally changes and you recognize that the world is different than you always thought it was. Absolutely. I am I've also seen the ability in a lot of different types of people, not just me, to say, these things happened. I now can control the next bits.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing that I wanted to mention is the people that I feel like that I look up to who hit goals, who seem successful, quote unquote, or who are, they always seem to me that they are in control, or they are the ones who are steering their life. They're very proactive. They're making decisions that push their life whatever direction they want it to be. If financial, relationship, real estate, cars, whatever. Like they have the skills, they have the knowledge, and some of the experience. They always do seem to be a little older. You very rarely look up to a 20-year-old as like, oh man, you know that person.
Well, and then if you do, you're like, I know that I'm measuring this wrong. Like I there's so much that I know that I don't know about this.
But I think the people who I feel are the most successful at doing what they want to do, achieving a goal, no matter what that goal is, I feel like they are the people who have the most control of the most aspects of their life. Like they're in control of their finances, they're in control of their relationships, they're in control of their business, meaning they understand it at a certain point, at enough of a level that they can steer it in the way they need to get the desired outcome.
Right.
And I don't want to say that's easy, but I recognize that when I think about some people who are who got it going on. I think that's they at least give the illusion of it. Right.
And I here's a question for you. Do you think to be good at I think about my world in 4 pillars.
Okay.
I think about impact, income, intimacy, meaning relationships, and interests, curiosity, things that fall outside of that. That's how I try to see the world. Do you think that to run a great business and have friends, you need to fail places? Like, do you think that
can you do it all?
Do you think that it's possible to, quote, do it all?
Sure. I mean, the answer is yes.
The answer has to be, right?
The answer is yes. The probability of that seems very, very small because it's threading a needle. And the only way you get better at stuff is failing at it. So, no one's born with the innate knowledge how to run a business. I mean, let's put this. Very, very, very few wake up or are born knowing how to play the piano. Very few are born knowing how to dominate a basketball. Very few know how to be the best quarterback in the world when they're born.
Yeah.
Most everybody has to work at it.
Yeah.
And so I would say that the people who probably have that, and this is go back to my previous statement, that feel like they have the most control of everything, I would probably say they've probably failed. They have probably failed the most. And I think it's really it's not the volume of failures. I think that would, at least in my opinion, I'm hopeful that it's not the volume of failure that is the issue. It's the scale of the failure. Because I don't mind failing a little bit every day. I mean, I'm a parent. You ask my kids, depending on the day, I'm the best or worst. Like the goal is to get them to 18, get them out of the house without scarring them for life, right? I'm going to fail them along the way.
Yeah.
I just hope the volume, the scale of the failures are small enough that they don't have the fishbowl shattering moments.
Yeah.
And so I maybe think about that across business decisions, financial decisions, in any of that when you're trying to weave that together. Like if your goal is to have the perfect life, then that's an unattainable goal. But if your goal is to have a life that you are fully mastered and in control of, you do need to just sit down and figure out all the different ways that you have to weave every aspect of your life. And so for you listed your 4. I'm pretty simple. I've just got my work stuff, I've got my personal stuff, family stuff, and then I have my own personal Myles stuff, my little 3-foot circle stuff.
Yeah.
And trying to weave those 3 together. I mean, it's because they feel like they're always opposed, or at least there's no way to connect them. So I would say yes. The answer has to be yes. There is a way to have it perfect. I think the best you can do is spend your lifetime trying to make it good. And just know that it's a continual process. And that's the other thing for me for goals. And one of the reasons I don't like to set goals is like, all right, we hit the goal, now what?
Yeah. Like the example is our goal for Q1 was to have all our ducks in a row so that we could start bidding on homes.
Okay.
2 weeks in.
I was about to say, here you are, January 20th, inauguration day.
So that was
already under contract.
So it was a weird
goal.
Okay,
what's next?
Yeah, so like what is next? And I think that what you've...
So I think in that just in that specific moment, it's more important to have a goal of creating a home versus buying a house.
Correct. And I also, the hat I'm trying to wear is knowledgeable, thoughtful, and actively reviewing, considering real estate as a investment class.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is different than bought our forever home, which is what we might have done, maybe.
I've only owned 2 homes.
Right. And where I'm trying to like flip a switch is I want to go from the way that I told a couple people is like I feel like it might be like getting a tattoo, where it's sort of forever, right? Like this home is theoretically forever. 30 years is a lifetime for some people. It would be a pain to get rid of this. Possible.
Yeah.
Not
impossible, but
but the reality is like I'm already thinking about the next one.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where I'm at. That's why I think that like a tattoo for me is interesting.
Okay.
Because I don't have a sleeve right now. I don't have a sleeve of tattoos, but I know what the energy of that is because I've worked for like 15 years to not get too many tattoos.
Okay.
And like holding back the dam, the flood of like, it's just tattoos. Part of it was financial. Part of it was like aesthetic. I am 2 weeks into this real estate experience, and I am now thinking about like, okay, well, how much credit would be left? Like how lendable are we? Yeah. Can we now think about a place 2 hours or an hour outside of Asheville that's even further into the woods, or like there's no rental in this place?
Yeah.
But like, what about the neighborhood? Is there a place nearby that would be rentable? Because we're not in actual city limits. So like, and I think that at this point, there's no real box to check for me on how do I, like the goal isn't buy a home.
Yeah.
The goal is be someone who understands real estate.
Exactly. And I think that's important, is to recognize, your goal in that is not to invest in real estate. Your goal is to your goal in that is to make yourself knowledgeable and put yourself in the best financial position. And part of achieving that goal is exploring this avenue.
Yeah, and getting reps.
Yeah, exactly.
And getting reps. Whether or not this is
and
like the best.
You may never buy another investment property. You may never own it.
Yep.
And that's okay. Like,
word. And then I don't want to leave the can you do everything well. I think that the answer also is yes. I think that then it will come down to how many things you can say no to. Right? You mentioned
the bigger. It's like SimCity. The bigger, I don't know if you young kids played.
So SimCity was the thing. I didn't necessarily play it myself.
The
but
bigger
it was
the world got, your world got, the more complex it got, and the more issues you had.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you have to say no a lot. You've got to make your world small that you can focus on it and tune it the way it needs to be tuned.
Yeah. We had a lacrosse coach in college who said he only did 2 things. It was like be a parent and coach our team. Everything else, no, I can't get drinks with college friends. No, I don't go to family parties. No, I don't. It's like I'm a parent and I'm a lacrosse coach. Since divorced,
seems extreme, but
since divorced, but he was a pretty smoking good
I'm gonna tell
coach.
You, people who are driven like that, like look at anybody who's great. They're
So, but that's my point. So, like anybody who's great
burns bridges along the way.
has a terrible, and I don't mean to say it like this is matter of fact, but often when someone goes, well, look, his greatness meant that he was terrible somewhere else.
Well, all right, I'm going to use a world. This is an example that's in my world I use all the time, and I joke about it. Like, I'll never be a great architect. I will never be a world-renowned architect because I am not a piece of shit. Like every big name that you ever heard of, and some you haven't. Like, I'll just stick to American architects. If you look at Frank Lloyd Wright, he like had affairs with 3 of his clients, broke up marriages, illegitimate children, running wild. He was a terrible boss.
God.
It was awful. World famous. Look at Lou Kahn. Lou Kahn's the same way. Lou Kahn was the one who died in Penn Station in New York in the bathroom, and his body lay unclaimed at the coroners for 3 days because nobody missed his ass. Wow. Nobody cared because he had he had illegitimate children everywhere. He was just a total asshole. He was just difficult to deal with. And the list just goes on because those guys, they were so manic about good to great architecture that, like you said, everything else fell.
Ha. Damn. So yeah, I guess it's setting my expectations in a certain degree. I have no interest in being Zuckerberg or Musk.
Yeah.
So I do think that my SimCity size will be bigger than some, smaller than a lot.
Yeah.
And I aspire to be someone who doesn't drop balls.
Same, bro.
All right.
Goals.
If you were to try and summarize what just happened, how would you say?
Ask yourself why you're setting the goal. Ask yourself if the execution of the goal is more important to you or the process of getting to that goal. And so that, I would say, is the 30,000 foot picture for me.
Yeah. And are there times where the execution of the goal is a good enough goal?
For me, yeah. That's
and then, you said the process of getting there would be the alternative.
you mean the actual, like if my
checking
goal is to snatch 120 keys. Like, sure, the day that I do that, I'll be happy, but every rep that I take below that doesn't upset me. I'm not, like, I don't snatch 118 and be like, God, it's not 120. Like, I take joy in the fact that I can do that.
Yeah, I think that you're dead on. It's and then the one thing I would say is, like, if you have a goal and you think it's a worthwhile goal, what things can you do this moment to begin the process? Move
your feet toward that goal. It doesn't matter if you're walking at a 45-degree angle to your goal or dead on at it. Just start moving toward it. Don't stand still.
Here. Dang. All right. Well, we did it, Myles.
Technology is against us, but
the goal.
I know the goal. We had a goal of having a better podcast, and we feel like
it looks so clean at the hour mark. Yeah. It is. Right.
Cue the music.
All right. Exit.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
And let's go to this, and then let's go to this, and then let's hit finish. And what are we talking about next?
I don't know, man.
I got some ideas.
Oh, perfect.